Yep. Yeah, I was gonna grab one of those mics. Just talk. I'll be just talking.
Hey guys, if you can give me your attention. I'm sorry. The mic is what? Continue eating your food. I just want to say welcome and thank you, for coming to our inaugural Fireside Chat hosted by the wonderful Ms. Terica Clinton, who's the head of our community engagement department. George Baker, one of the co-founders of After the Game. I'll let Cyrus introduce himself. Also, the president of the organization. If you don't know about After the Game, what we do is we aim to support youth organizations to take the burden off parents and to make playing sports more affordable. Right? When you think about today's age, right, with the cost of living, a lot of parents just can't afford to put all their kids in sports continually. Right? $1,000 to play volleyball, $1,500 to play basketball. That's about 5% of a parent's salary. Right? And that's just for one segment. That's just for one segment. So, the way that the world's going right now, pay-to-play sports is a big business, and it's just driving a lot of kids in the inner city out of participating. So that's what After the Game's about. We're trying to drop that cost, ease that burden, make the decision for a parent a lot easier to keep their kids in sports and allow them to play. Right? So I'll turn it over to Cyrus.
Just gotta hold us to talk, I guess.
I think we had to hold it. Put on the record.
Thanks for coming, especially on this cold Thursday night. Like George said, I'm one of the co-founders, and I think one of the deeper questions about having kids play sports, besides the fact that it gives them something fun to do, it keeps them out of trouble, even all kids. So we really are happy about the fact that we can help keep these kids occupied in a positive way. A lot of the coaches that we work with, they end up mentoring the kids beyond the time they see them. And we also do some academic supporting, which we're hoping to expand over the next, over this year, to encourage the kids and support them academically as well, so they can excel both to school and in sports. But yeah, thank you for coming.
One last thing I'll say, we have a bunch of coaches here, right? I think we have about 6. If you're a coach, raise your hand, right? So we invite a lot of coaches here because, again, a lot of these coaches come out of their own pockets to keep these kids playing, right? To keep their kids playing. And we're creating a program where we're going to help these coaches get stipends to kind of ease the burden for these coaches as well. They don't just give up their time, they're giving up their money. They're giving up that money with inflation and the way the world's going again. That means a lot. Not a lot of people want to say thank you, and this is our way of saying thank you and giving back. We've all been there. So turn it over to Terry. Thank you guys for coming.
I'll bring up our speakers and our moderator. Just a few house rules. One, tonight's topic is coaches versus parents, so let's all just agree to disagree. And it is open to ask questions, so let's just be respectful. Raise your hand and not talk over one another, right? So when I call your name, you can just come up and have a seat. And these mics are for the audio, so make sure you're projecting when you're talking, right? This speaker is, I have to see all my glasses, is a student athlete at Marian Catholic. He plays golf and basketball. Let's give it up for Peyton Stafford. How do you say it? Staffordson. Okay, you sit right here. Our next speaker is a father of 5 boys. One at Princeton, one at Whitney Young, one at St. Ambrose, one at Kalamazoo, and he got one more. It's a lot of them. He works at Heartland Alliance. He's a parent of athletes, Samuel Davis. Okay, our co-speaker today, he is the head varsity basketball coach for 6 years at St. Lawrence. He coached in the CPS League and currently in the Catholic League. Byron is the owner and president of an AAU program for 7 years. He played Division I basketball at Loyola University, Chicago. He worked alongside the athletic director of Evanston Township for 1 year and also an internship with the Chicago Bulls and Tom Thibodeau's staff. Byron Burton. And last but not least, our moderator of the evening. He is a two-time Super Bowl champion. He's a father, first of all, and a husband. 11-year NFL vet. He holds the NCAA record. U of I alumni. He's a U of I alumni, and he holds the record for the most touchdowns in a game. How many touchdowns? Who knows? Do we know what we're talking about?
I know.
We're talking about how Griffin. Who knows?
7?
Close. 8. 8 touchdowns, okay? And he only looks 30 years old. He is a lead analyst at the Big Ten Network, and he's also former president of the Hyde Park Spartans, which is a youth football league. So this man has played every role: father, player, athlete to the day. He's been the president of a youth organization, so he knows everything. So thank you for joining us. All right.
Good. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I think this is, a fascinating topic when you start to think about young people, parent dynamics, plus the coaching dynamic. And this is something that all three of you have had to deal with and are dealing with currently. Because there's so much stress and expectations on our young people today. And I think sometimes as parents, we can put some undue pressure on our kids. And that's some of the things that we want to talk about tonight. But I think it's really important for us to, kind of get an idea of where we are and where you guys see the parent-coach relationship, how you're seeing it develop, the good, the bad, and also the ugly. So let's start with you.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, I think that the relationship is kind of going to a point where it's like, it's very transparent. Like, I know for me, like, the relationship with the parents is very, it's like they're talking to us after the games, they're talking to us, before the games and stuff like that. And you try your best to put these rules and you try to implement all of these things about, like, wait 24 hours before, after a certain situation and stuff like that. Or even if you're, talking to a kid before they even enter into, the high school, you're letting them know, like, these are the expectations that we kind of, this is how we do things, is the expectation and stuff like that. But I just think that it's just been a transparent relationship with the parents. I think they're getting really, really comfortable with talking to the coaches and approaching them at all different times and stuff like that. And some coaches, they're okay with that, you know what I mean? And then some are a little bit more old school where, they want you to wait, you know what I mean? And I know for me, I'm very, very, very open with my parents, but I do try to give them those expectations in the beginning, just to let them know, like, this is what we're not doing, this is what we will allow. But I mean, I think the real question comes down to, like, what happens when you do put those things in places and then the parents are still overstepping that boundary with it. So I think it's a developing thing, and we still have a lot of work to do with it. And I think this type of thing we're doing right here starts with how you can fix the situation.
Yeah. You have a very interesting perspective.
I do.
So share with us how you were able to guide them and are guiding them now through this process when each one of them is their own individual.
I want to say for me, it's been different. So if you have multiple children, each child has a different personality, so you have to provide support that way. And then each coach has a different personality, a different style that you mentioned. The most important thing, I believe, is to provide consistent support and to be able to control what you can control. I can't control how much time my kid gets, although I would like to. I can't control the perspective of the coach and what he finds valuable. What I can control is what we do as a family, right? And so when we start talking about how we can, as a coach and a parent, kind of have a game plan for success, that's talking about what that kid's going to be able to do in terms of in the classroom first and foremost, and then what they need to do for themselves to get to a point where they can add value to that team. It's like any business. If you've ever ran a company, you want your employees to continue to get better, right? You want them to continue to invest in themselves so they can add more value to that company, to that team. And so for me, it's always been driven that way, right? my kid happens to be an employee of your company, i.e. your basketball team program, how can we continue to have an action plan for him to continue to get better so he can add more value to that team? So for me, that comes with understanding each employee, right, as coaches do, and then being able to then say, okay, you need to go here for this training, that for that training, so you can come back and add more value to our team dynamic. And that's a collaborative effort, right? So that takes collaboration, and it takes a little bit of humility on both parts. It takes a lot of humility. And the kid's got to be engaged. The kid has to want to do it.
You know, one of the things that I think is always interesting is from a young person's, perspective, right? Because you see your parents and how they interact with you, but you also see your friends' parents and how they interact. How does that affect your relationship at home?
Well, I would say my relationship at home is pretty good with my dad right now and with my parents right now. Off of just what I see, how does that affect me personally? When I have a coach that really connects with me, or a person that really speaks to me, that drives me on and off the court, because I put so much effort into what I do on the basketball court or on whatever I do, getting that response from a parent or, like I said, a coach is really important to at least me, and I feel like it's important to myself. So that affects it good.
So tell me though, when you see the overbearing parent, so we've all talked about the positive side of it is what I've heard, but what about your friends or other teammates that you've seen, maybe on the other team, your opposing team?
I think an overbearing parent means that they care. They care first of all. Like, if you're not an overbearing parent, then it shows maybe you don't care so much. I feel like an overbearing parent, in a sense, could be a good thing, saying you care and want to do what's best for your child. I feel like just communicating to the parent and saying, laying down the ground rules of what we're trying to do and what you're trying to do, and coming to maybe a agreement on that can be very effective in multiple ways.
So Coach, you've talked about, setting the expectation early. What happens when the parent doesn't necessarily agree with your rule?
Yeah, so I think so. Just to go back to what the overbearing parents. There's like a good and a bad when it comes to that type of situation, right? There's an overbearing parent that's, in my opinion, that's trying to live their life through their kid. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to accomplish this dream that you have of playing at the highest level, of playing Division I basketball, maybe playing in the NBA. You're trying to push that dream and that goal onto your kid, and the overbearingness can be a lot. And these are kids that we're dealing with, you know what I mean? So they don't know how to respond to their parents about like, hey dad, hey mom, like, this is too much for me. You know what I'm saying? Because that's mom and dad. You're gonna sit back and you're gonna just deal with it. But it affects them. I know for a fact it affects them mentally, because I've had kids that told me things that they wouldn't even express to their parents. You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely a difference between the overbearing parent and all of that stuff. But to circle back, what you were saying about can you repeat what you were saying, the first thing you said? I had to go back to that overbearing parent.
Well, I think that's important. That's an important part of it.
Oh, you said that they're not following.
They're not following
the
rules that have been set. I.e., if you have a 24-hour rule, we need to wait. Or you say, my meetings, I meet with parents on Tuesday at 6 o'clock after practice, not before practice. Right. But they want to meet you before practice on Monday.
Yeah, they want to.
Because they didn't get enough time Sunday.
They want to meet on Sunday. They're trying to meet on Sunday. But I think when it comes to those type of situations, obviously, you don't want to, like just literally like brush them off. Like I said, I think I'm a pretty nice guy, pretty reasonable guy. So I'll try to like redirect them and say like, we need to have this conversation so I can like get my mind and my thoughts together. We need to really do this 24 hours. But I would say if it's a continuous thing, this would be something you gotta let the parents know, like this is something like we probably not gonna continue to keep doing. And if it does happen, like continue to keep happening, this might not be the place for your kid. It might not be what's best for them. You don't trust what the coaching staff is doing, so you might need to remove your kid and put them somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the honest, that's just what it comes down to. And I think sometimes a lot of coaches try to run from that because sometimes it's usually like one of your better players. You know, if it's one of your better players, you probably want to keep that kid. So you probably go have that conversation after that. But I think after a certain time, you gotta like, you know, George was talking to us earlier about it. You gotta stick to what your standards are. You gotta have these morals, and I think you gotta set the boundaries right there.
From a parent standpoint, do you need to make sure that your children are being coached by the right people that may have the same values or that have the same values that they see at home?
That's important. It's important for them to have values and standards and structure, right? I think for me, that was the most important piece. I think that was one of the reasons why we chose Whitney Young, and then Westinghouse for one of the kids, and a couple of boys stayed at Ogden, and my youngest is still at Whitney Young, is that you want your children around men, right? Like, and being a man means that we can agree to disagree, right? And there's healthy debate about life and the trajectories of life. That's important for me. So it wasn't always a situation where we looked at, hey, what was the best athletic fit? A lot of it came down to academics and then also the culture around the men who my son would be around. Because we didn't agree a lot, but we understood that, again, being around men sets a certain pathway to have standards and values and systems in place for success.
Do you see the things that you are, the way you're raised at home, do you see that in some of your coaches?
Oh, of course. I feel like that's...
How important is that?
That's absolutely important. That's something that you need. I feel like if you have that, then you can relate to the kids more so having that, and I feel like that's very important for a team aspect and also a personal aspect as well.
You know, for me, I grew up on the southeast side of Chicago, and I grew up playing Little League football or baseball at South Side Little League. And some of my fondest memory of the best coaches that I had were my baseball coaches. One was Mr. Bonds, who became a principal at Collins. His son, Walt Bonds, played for Minnesota. His daughter was one of the first champions. USC, played basketball at USC with Cheryl Miller. We were at a baseball game, and this was the first time I'd ever seen champions. We were playing at Stony Island Park. USC had just won the national championship, women's basketball. And these tall women came to watch us play. That was my first recollection of seeing champions. But the coaches put us in position to always try to expose us to different things, right? And it was my parents, you know, I look back, and they had me around the right people as a young person. And you may not believe it at the time or may not see it at the time because you may be some disagreements, but I think it's so important that you have your kids around like-minded people, not just because it's about publicity and what this person can do for you, because that's not where he or she's gonna spend the majority of their time. Adults and people that are coaching our youth are so important to defining who they are. And I think back to my time when I had to have Park Junior Spartans. I wanted to coach, but I had to talk to parents all the time. Literally, I'd leave the Big Ten Network, come to practice started at 6. By the time I got there, I was talking to parents to the time it's time to go. Because people wanted their sons to play, right? Why is he not playing? We gotta have a coaches meeting about this. Why is this team getting this type of equipment and we're getting this type of equipment? And I'm sitting around and all I want to do is have a football team. But I'm handing out equipment, picking up garbage, doing all those things. But I say all that to say the important part was that you're there. That's the other side of coaching, particularly at the youth level, is that he or she knows that you're there, and you mentioned that you care and you can connect. You don't have to be the greatest X's and O person out there. But if you are, that's great. But if you're there and they know that they can count on you, that you're gonna be at practice, And I know as we continue to go up in levels, the competition, the stakes get higher and higher. But I think as we start to set that foundation, it's important for us all to understand that it's about allowing those coaches to do what they can do and supporting the coaches, and that's hard. It's really hard to do, particularly if you're a parent that knows enough to be dangerous about the sport. Just your knowledge, your overall knowledge about it. But I think what's happening in today's, as you talk about youth athletics, all the way going up to college, everyone, as you've already mentioned it, sometimes the parents see that child as not only living through them, but they also see them as a 401k. And that's unfortunately, that's real. And you can be, trust me, because I've seen it, you can have all the right intentions that you want, but because of what you see socially, on these phones, wherever, everything is about getting more, attaining more, getting more. And you never know when's enough is enough. Because the internet says it's never enough, because you were watching somebody that's getting more. And I think that's one of the toughest things now, and in your position, when you're coach, because now you know these kids can play. Their parents know they can play. And it's like, I got to get to college. And it's just not the college for free, it's a specific college. It's not just I want to go for free, it's that specific college. And I think it's important when you talk about your case, but having kids that go to different schools, it's important that the parents buy in and understand.
Is it okay if I speak to
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
So if I've ever had any contact with the coach, we've always talked about the fact that my kids will be fine because they can read, write, and count. So it was never going to be a point in time where we would have someone come into our home or speak to a coach, and my son wasn't able to get into that school just off of the fact that he was an intelligent young man, first and foremost. So you couldn't explain to me that because he played a sport, that you were going to allow him opportunity to go to your school. I remember on a visit to Tulane, one of the coaching staff expressed to us how much it costs to go to the school per year. And I'm thinking to myself that he can get a scholarship to your school because he can, again, read, write, and count. It was never to us, or to me, about the fact that we needed the athletics to push him. That was something, if you've ever been around David, he loved the game. He loved to compete. He took value and pride in that, right? My kid who went to West House loved to compete. They took pride in that because as young kids, we taught them how to compete. We taught them how to fight, how to be consistent. And so when I think about that coach you had at an early age and being able to expose you and your teammates to a number of different experiences, the one thing that comes to mind is that we talk about families in our communities, the lack of family structure and support, and understanding what the moral compass is of our families. So when you start talking about, hey, look, sports, yes, it teaches you certain skills and about how to become a young man, right? How to become a young lady. It isn't always, we don't need that to get to college. That isn't it. Like what we need is certain values. If you love the game of basketball, you love the game of baseball, you love to play football, pursue it. Pursue your passions with everything you have, but never get it misconstrued. You are a student first, right? You have to invest in yourself and in everything you do. The young man said it. Anything and everything I do, I'm going to do to a certain degree because I am exceptional, right? That's what we have to instill as African American and African American community, Black community. We have to instill that back into our homes, right? This isn't necessarily about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have, right? And so we have to get back to that, right? And the sports, they don't come, but you have to have that work ethic and that commitment to structure, and being steadfast, and then having a vision and passion for who you are as a person. And so when you talk about the parents and the fact that they've gotten caught up into the social media and the hype of it, It's a small window. It's a small few. It's a select club. You know, right? It's a small window. Not everyone goes. And so that's why it's important to put, make sure our priorities are in order. And the men and women that used to be in our community aren't there anymore. Right? They aren't there. So you used to have, we were talking about it earlier, you used to have gentlemen at the Boys and Girls Club that cared about you, that wanted to make sure that you were able to have a place to safe haven, away from maybe some troubles you had at home, to help you deal with your trauma. That isn't in our communities anymore. So if we talk about making sure that, you know, that parent engagement is appropriate, then one thing we need to make sure is that we start to invest in our communities and our homes again to right that wrong.
And we were talking earlier, and you mentioned that you only allow certain people into your world. I won't say your home, but because it extended to outside of that, whether it's school. How difficult was that for your kids to deal with? Because I'm sure they not gravitated to, but kids are kids. They like who they like, their friends are who they are, and it's up to the parents to kind of guide them to, this person's good, yeah, you probably can't go over there. You know what I mean? How were you able to navigate that?
My oldest son. So I don't know if there's anyone who has multiple children, that oldest one kind of sets the tone. So like if you're in a basketball team, you have a senior-led group, they set the tone for the younger guys. That's so important. My oldest son was his coach would say coachable, right? So Davion was a coachable young man as my son. And so as we started to restrict certain activities that other kids were allowed to do, his brothers saw it. They all saw the benefit of it. So when they began to see other kids in the community, in their school community, kind of fall by the wayside, the younger ones understood why we didn't allow certain things and why we kept a real tight ship. And also why we didn't allow them to do as much. I mean, I can count on maybe one hand how many times all 5 kids have spent less than 10 days over my parents' home overnight. Like, we didn't do that. I was raised, my father said, you had them, you keep them. Right? Like, they can come see me, right? But you had them, you take care of them. And there was value in that. And so we tried to do that. We tried to manage what we had at home. We didn't have a lot all the time, but we had each other, and we had our values and standards. And so again, going back to our community and why it's so important is because we have to have a certain level of standards. And also we have to make sure as we go forward and push that the kids understand that there's something greater later. It ain't about right now. And I mean that way. It ain't about right now. I just tell my son all the time, you know, when he would say, I want to do this, I want to do that, and he had a different opinion. Man, I am happy you have that because you're going to need it. You still can't do it, but I appreciate the fact that you have an opinion because as a father, and especially as a black father, the one thing you want your kids to have is their own mind and be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And so when they have it, they give it, and it turns and they project to you, you're doing something right. But now how do I take that and allow you to actually position it towards something that's going to be beneficial for yourself? And so what we tried to do was get them to that point and be like, you know what? Guess what? College is right around the corner. It's going to be the best time of your life. And it is. It's the best time of your life. And I don't want to get too far off of a tangent, but when you look at just our community and what we deem recognizable, you look at our prom send-offs, things of that nature. They're extravagant. And I've always wondered why. I've always wondered why.
I'm a little old. It wasn't mine.
They
were like, be safe, be back by 10.
I
went back by 10, but how social media affected the way you move day to day?
Me personally,
Yes.
I use it as motivation. I see
What part of it?
videos online of just speakers like this talk about their experiences and what they had to go through and how they overcame that, and I try to implement that into my life. Discipline, hard work, communication, togetherness, stuff like that into my life to help me become a better person. But I feel like for other people, it may go down a different route. seeing other stuff, seeing rankings, getting caught up in that, and taking a bad turn instead of motivating them. I tried to motivate them.
Why have you not gravitated to that side? Because it just didn't happen. Things just don't happen, right? When there are things that are out there, outside forces are coming in, talking to you, you should be ranked here, this is what you should be doing. If you're a junior or a senior in high school, you should be scoring this amount of points. You should be doing this. How do you still keep your focus and understand who you are? And that that's whatever on the other side of that screen is not you, or could not be true.
It's really myself and the people I'm around. I mean, my dad tells me every day, rankings do not matter. Like, wherever you're ranked, it can mean a totally different thing. And if you're not ranked, just keep working to get that place. So I really give it up to my dad and the people around me in my little system of, hey, you're better than what anybody says. Don't listen to anybody. Block yourself out, or block everybody else out. Look into yourself. Look into yourself for that.
You're in an interesting situation, right? Your experience, because you're not that far moved from running up and down the court yourself, being in the young people who you're staring into their eyes, asking them to do certain things for you. How have you seen it change from the time you were at that spot to what you see now?
Yeah, I would say with that, I mean, for me, growing up, I didn't really have like the amount of resources that the kids got nowadays is like crazy. We didn't have that. You know what I mean? I grew up, I grew up with this guy. We didn't have that. Like our stuff was like we going to the gym on our own. Mom and dad wasn't too much really involved with like pushing us to go do things. We wasn't really doing things because mom and dad wanted us to do it. We was doing it because this is something like we love and it was something we wanted to do. Yeah, I think social media played the biggest part though in that. I mean, that was something that we didn't have that much of. You know, I mean, we had like, I don't know, they probably know Tag. We had Tag and like Facebook. I don't know. That was like the thing.
Some of us still have Facebook, so watch yourself.
Yeah, they probably don't know about Tag, but that was like our social media. So it wasn't a lot of these videos up of kids working out and all this other stuff, the social media stuff. But yeah, I just think it just changed over time because everything is just accessible. Like everybody can get a trainer now. Like everybody has a trainer. Like everybody. And I'm looking around like, okay, like this, we didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? Like go to the gym on your own. Go put up shots on your own. Like
There's
why
not that many trainers out there. They're certified anyway.
It's yeah. So I mean, yeah, I just think that's the difference. Just the resources and accessibility that everybody's, that the kids have now. There's a big difference from what we had.
What's that first conversation like with you when you see a promising 8th, 7th, 8th grader that wants to come play for you? What is that conversation like with you and the parents? Or even if the parents aren't involved?
Right. Yeah, with the parent, I think it's more just about, the position I'm in right now and the resources that we have at the school I'm at is just a great opportunity for the kid to have a better life. You know what I'm saying? That's something like, like we talk, that's something like I'm really big on. Like our whole entire program is based off of like relationships and like growth. You know what I mean? So we talk to the kids, the parents a lot about like, we want to build this positive relationship with your kid and help him grow as an individual, as a person. And then along the way, the basketball stuff would just be like an extra treat for it, you know what I mean? And, when we talk to the kids, I tell the kids all the time, I say like, dude, you're in 8th grade. Like, you got so much time. Like, you got so much development to do. And I jokingly say like you're not that good. You know what I'm saying? Like you got work to do. Humble yourself and just be a good person at the end of the day. Like he talked about, that's the first thing we tell him. But Pop said it perfect. Academics, we're talking about the environment of the school you at, the people you around. The teachers that's in the building, the coaching staff, just everybody supporting you. And just getting to know you as an individual, I think is huge.
How did your college experience compare to you?
My college experience was amazing. I had a really good coach. So just for the people that don't know, I was a walk-on, always bringing in guests and just people who play college basketball or people who work with the NBA teams or something like that. We're always bringing them in. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we get on Zoom with some of the players. Like recently, we just had one of our my friend is a player development coach for the New York Knicks. Like he hopped on Zoom he's talking to the kids just about like, you know, how like a day-to-day and all that type of stuff. You know? So just the connections and resources, that stuff, Loyola taught me that, and I'm trying to pass it on to these kids right now.
We clearly know how important academics are. So I want to share this little story. My youth program, we played and practiced at Hale Franciscan on 47th and Cottage Grove. And my buddy was the head coach taking over the football program. There was a young man on his team that was really bright and really talented, right? Dartmouth came to recruit. Everybody around there is excited. Family members weren't so much. San Diego State came around and they were really excited about San Diego State. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, are you kidding me? We're talking about Dartmouth. What aren't we getting, right? But part of it is you don't know what you don't know. And what you haven't been exposed to from a parent's perspective, it's okay. I mean, I think that's why it's important that you put and have your children in the best position, in the best program with good people. So that they can have that conversation with you. There's nothing wrong with San Diego State. But are you kidding me? We're talking about Dartmouth. Is there a discussion? There shouldn't have been a discussion, but there was. And that's okay. But because he had a head coach that recognized and played college ball, and they were able to walk the family through this process, so it became really quick. I'm going to Dartmouth. And to me, again, that's the role. Young coaches, they're coaching young people, have to really embrace and understand. Because I get it, everybody wants to, at this age, they want to go to the pros, they want to do all these things, but that's not necessarily everybody's path. And quite frankly, there are other paths that can be more lucrative for you. So I think it's being able to be open-minded to everything that goes along with the educational process when we develop our kids. And you've been talking about it all night, and I think where did that come from? That it was all about, it's really academics first.
I think for me, it was about leverage. So when you start thinking about using basketball and not allowing it to use you, it was really about being able to create leverage. I remember early on, when even I was in high school, and there was a pastor, Horace Smith, who talked about straight ahead. Things will come in your life, and you don't have to be pulled this direction, that direction. But what are your goals? What vision do you have for yourself? And straight ahead. And that's so important. To your point about social media, a lot of times we allow things to distract us from what's what. And sometimes keeping the main thing is ultimately what's most important. And so where that came from was from Sam and Thelma Davis. And a host of other folks who were positive men in my life. But Horace Smith gave a good message about straight ahead. And so what that meant to me when I had my boys is, we don't have a lot, but what we do have, we're going to hold sacred and keep that close to us. What can we control? What are our controllables? Just like any business, what can we control, right? And what are our advantages? I told my boys early on, I don't know if you're Division I athletes, but you're Division I students.
That's right.
Right? And so when we had that conversation, the other part of it became, we're going to work. So, yes, the books were very important, but if any coach knows me, we worked. And so that meant that the boys' home was paramount, but they worked so hard to be able to be a student athlete. It's different, and here's what I mean. They weren't just working out to be able to play basketball. They were working out to be able to play basketball and be a student. So what that meant is, when I leave practice, I still have to be fresh enough to go home and study. That doesn't mean I can take a day off on the study part. I gotta be in shape to do both, right? And so that was different. And that's what something I tried to make sure I instilled in them. But where that came from is because I knew they had talent, right? But I never wanted them to cheat themselves. I never wanted to see that happen. And as a father, and as a black father, that was something I couldn't allow to happen, because that was my control. That was my control as a man and as a father. The very least I can give you is the best opportunity I can to be successful in whatever you want to do. If you want to play basketball, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach you how to work hard. So when they left that court, working hard in that classroom was easy. After I tell you, it was so funny. We used to run at Sewell Park. I don't know if anybody's from up north, but we used to run at Sewell Stand Park. And we didn't start running until they couldn't run anymore. That was it. That was the key to it. When they couldn't run anymore and they began to doubt themselves, we started. When they started hanging their heads, someone started layering back, we started to run. And I started to encourage, I started to push. And I didn't have the wealth of experience of the coaches in this room. I didn't play Division I basketball, but I knew how to work. I knew how to work. And so I knew that the kids who left our program were going to be great because they worked. And because we worked so hard, we've got kids at Yale, Georgetown, we've got a young man who's at the University of Illinois, Cal Fullerton, because they understood how to work, right? And so where that came from mowing the vacant lot next door to my house, right? That came from mowing the lawn next door to me, my neighbor's lawn. That came from mowing the church lawn next door, right? On a Saturday morning, and that was non-negotiable. That was a non-negotiable that I had grown up. And so again, as a father, how do I give that to my children? So that's where it came from.
I think it can still be difficult because I think sometimes as parents, we're trying to give more and more because some of us, and I'll say I was like this, you kind of function from an area of, okay, you want to do, my parents wanted to do better than their parents. So my parents, were educators. Their parents, my great-grandparents were 3rd and 4th grade. That was all they did, okay? But on my dad's side, the first one that graduated from college, it was 9 of them. It was probably 75 years ago. Think about that. So when you talk about the work part of it, it becomes a non-negotiable. You have to be able to work and understanding what work is. And your experience as a walk-on, I was a walk-on in Illinois myself, is part of that process. And it's not pretty. It's not gonna be what people wanna watch on YouTube. It's not. But anything worth having takes work. And when we understand the work process and understand what it takes to get there, I think everyone can agree that you have to do whatever you need to do to make sure that you put your family members and people you love in the best position that they can be in.
Good. So, just really quick. So what I do for a living now is I help run a couple of programs for Heartland Alliance. One program is a program for folks who have been perpetrators of gun violence and victims of gun violence. Another one is Farm Works. We deal with the homeless population and folks who don't speak English. The Brady program specifically, I see gentlemen on a daily basis who have been incarcerated. They've been abandoned since a very young age, and they're trying to deal with their trauma. And I was speaking to a young man this morning about what support looks like. We have some hard and fast rules, 915, you're not allowed in for programming, because we're trying to provide these gentlemen some structure. We're trying to provide guidance. We only get 12 months to do it. I've got guys who have never worked a job in their life. They're 45. They sold drugs their entire life. And I'm trying to get them to understand that there is value in structure. Support looks like me saying okay, but me saying no. That is support. Me supporting you is not giving you something. Me supporting you is you earning that thing. Because at some point you're going to have to teach this to someone. So when you talk about wanting to give more to your children than we had, I'm attempting to do that. Right? My father didn't know, right? And you spoke about it earlier in terms of all the different trainers that we have out here and things like that, right? We've got more access to these resources. But sometimes deprivation is okay. Sometimes it's okay to go without. Sometimes it's okay to sacrifice and suffer, right? Because there's a crushing, right? It allows us to get to another point. And so when I think about that and that support sometimes is the truth and it hurts. And sometimes that support is saying no and it hurts, but it gets us ultimately to where we need to be. And that's so very important. And I think a lot of kids, to your point about Instagram and social media, they don't have that. They see what they see, they think that everyone told them yes. Right? They don't get the fact that, no, someone's told them no. And a lot of times it's life, because they don't have that support. This is all they have. They don't see what they're missing. They just see what they have. And sometimes, again, to be successful, you gotta get that no. You gotta hear, not yet. I've had coaches in the room tell my son, who I thought was one heck of a basketball player, not yet. And we fought. Oh, I'm an advocate for mine. Right? But it was okay. That no was needed, right? That no was needed because now we get a chance to see whether or not you break or not. That's the truth. Because at the next level, no one cares. I got my son walked on the crate. Nobody. What are you going to do with the opportunity, right? Then we get to life. Nobody cares. You become a young man and you're in this world. No one cares. So to have great men, you spoke about it earlier, who can influence and impact. We don't always have to agree. We don't always agree. It's very important to hear those no's because they build toughness. They build character.
I want to open it up to questions.
Look, so first of all, I want to thank all of you guys, for sharing your stories. Me personally, father of 4 daughters, I chose the academic disclosure. I chose the academic. But as adults, we know that hard work, right? We can work as hard as we want and we put in maximum effort, but it does not guarantee success. Right? It does not guarantee success. How do you, anyone in the room, how do you get your child to understand that, right? That you can bust your butt, you do everything right, but it does not guarantee success. Do you have that conversation?
I think it's a conversation that you have to have. And for me, it was easier because I had to be a walk-on, because I was a 9th round draft pick. I can say, I could have quit, I could have done this, but I pushed through. So, and I think that's why it's always important. I keep going back to who we have our children around is so important. One of the reasons I started the Hyde Park Junior Spartans was because I wanted parents to be around other parents that it was a melting pot of people from literally the haves, the have-nots, and the people in this organization and the Junior Spartan organization are still friends to this day. The friendships that were created through that, with the parents that were able to help with resources, whether we had a psychologist there and a child was struggling, could help the parents, guide them to the people that could give them help at that particular moment. That's what I started the program. That's what it was really based on. And I think it's about being able to, if you personally have not struggled, but someone in your family or someone close, the people that you have in your inner circle, It's about being able to be comfortable enough with yourself to be able to open up to other people around you and say, hey, here we're struggling with this at home. Can you help? Or can they talk with you? And the reality is, particularly through sports, the kids gravitate. They don't care about the money side of it or where you live or what you have. They just know, hey, we're cool. We hang out. But I think it has to be deeper than that you have to be intentional about who you have your family members around. Because they're going to need to rely upon people that they can reach out and touch, that they can communicate with. And I know Charles Barkley took all the flack in the world and said about not being a role model, but what he was saying was right, because they can't touch him. So why should I be listening to what he says? That person can't help me when I'm struggling. I can't pick up the phone unless they're in your circle. But there are people in your circle who can help you and your children as they move through this process. And it's being able to identify those people early and keeping them tight. Keeping your circle as tight as you can is important. I know we want to be friendly to everybody, but making sure the right people in your circle is as important as anything. So.
But you have coaches, I want to make this like a two-part question, but coach, we have guys, we coach that bust their butt, they're first in scrimmages, they win all the scrimmages, they win all the sprints, and they're not going to play, right? You have a kid that's doing everything right, but the talent ain't there. How do we get them to, especially with mental health and wellness, right? How do we have that conversation with a kid, or have you guys had that conversation with a child or whatever?
I've had it with a few of our players before. I just think it's just, you gotta start out with being transparent with them. Just let them know, this is kind of how it's gotta be. Life ain't always fair, and you kind of gotta go through this. You gotta go through this experience. Is this something you gotta do, and it's probably gonna make you a better person. You know what I'm saying? I know that's hard to see right now, but it's just it's a tough conversation. It's always hard, but it's just something you kind of gotta go through.
Plus, I feel like there's no regret. You have to work your hardest, then you know that at least I tried, and I didn't peak out. And I've seen kids kind of wax and wane. They start out as no one really had to see the potential in them. Then 3 years later, they grow a couple inches and they're hitting all their shots, and then you're like, oh. Right. So I feel like if you keep working, and one of the things for my son that I like is that it keeps him off the screen. You know what I mean? It keeps him doing something. I'd rather have him in the gym for 2 hours than on his phone for 2 hours. 100%. And I feel like the dopamine that you get, the natural high you get from working out and making shots, that's value in and of itself. Outside of, even if he doesn't get to go, hopefully he goes all the way, but even if he doesn't get to go past high school or college or whatever, everybody, you're right, has a ceiling. Not everyone's going to be 6'8" and can shoot 80% of their jump shots or whatever it might be. But I feel like with George, your question, I feel like if you are working your hardest and you can say, hey, look, I busted my butt for 3 years. I only, after JV I got cut, at least you have no regret about it.
But do you tell them?
This is the most amazing coach I've seen.
I think everybody's point, it's a great point, but for one, you definitely gotta have a conversation. You gotta talk about it, but I think the biggest thing that we all try to do is just bring exposure. The only thing that we can do is just bring exposure to the situation. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to educate. And the only way we're going to pretty much grow is by educating you. So whether it's talking, but I'm exposing them by showing them. If I can find other people who went through certain things, and this is what I do with my kids, I bring up stories. Just like when I was in college, we had a wall of shame. So we wouldn't kind of go through the same situation. So our college coach would have any situation that someone had a DUI or et cetera, they post that on the wall so we can actually visually, we can see it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that the coach is telling us, hey, don't get in trouble today. No, he actually showed us this is what happens when you get in trouble. So we kind of got educated and knew we're not going to go down this route. So I think with what we're trying to do right now, even as coaches, as parents, we got to expose the kids to as much information as possible. And then whatever they decide to do after that, what happens. But our thing is to put our best foot forward. And I think that's what everyone's trying to do. As a parent, as a coach, we're going to put our best foot forward. And then it's up to the child, how it goes, how they land, that's what happens.
Coach, going to your question about that conversation, what we're doing all has an expiration. Like, I'm in elementary school right now, so 8th grade is what we've been shooting for since 4th grade. You gotta put in all the work you're gonna put in right now to give yourself a chance to be recruited by a Whitney Young or St. Lawrence or any other of these schools. If you don't put the work in right now, if you don't put the work in, you have no shot. You're not really gonna get a shot at this, right? Nothing's guaranteed. But if you don't put the work in, your chances get even lower. Right? Nothing's guaranteed. If I go in and put in 1,000 shots and then walk into a game, I can still go 0 for 10, right? None of it's guaranteed for success. But if I never put up any shots, it's probably more likely I'm gonna go 0 for 10 than 9 for 10 in this next game. So the work is not a guarantee for success, but it definitely gives you the best chance for success. It's a conversation I have with a lot of these kids.
I like that. I was going to add, so kind of like Howard, I had 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, all do football and cheer. I coached youth basketball, baseball, youth football. President of the South Holland Jets, been around 51 years. And so I kind of figured a way to talk to the parents and the kids, because I kind of get the kids to buy in and tell them 3 things. If you work hard, if you play with some heart, and if you hustle, you're going to find a place you're going to feel. Somewhere on the court. Those are the 3 things. And the kids buy into that. All right, if I work hard, if I hustle and I play hard, play with some heart, then they'll kind of figure, all right, these are people that's going to play somewhere. You may not be the most talented kid, but we're going to find somewhere to play on the court, somewhere to play on the field. The coaches usually try to find somewhere for that kid that hustles and plays hard and listens, right? If they can. And so if the kids know that, then everybody's got a shot. Regardless if you're the tallest, you're the fastest, you're the biggest guy, but if I work from the first few lines, and I tell them at the orientation, to the parents, hey, show your kids this, because sometimes the most talented kids are the laziest kids, right? Because they've been given all of the rewards, they don't have to work as hard. And I sometimes pull them to the side and say, you're not being a good leader right now for these kids. And so we kind of have to figure out a way to work through that. So I would say that hard work doesn't equal success, but hard work always pays off. It just depends on how you define it. It always pays off.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Right, whatever it takes. Any other questions, comments?
Man, I would just say, like, I'm Chris Harris, for those who don't know me, and I know everybody here that, like, this is great. I wish we could do this more often because I'm always trying to learn and hear information from different people. I run a lot of tournaments in Chicago. A lot of these coaches come to the league, and I just want to always tell the guys to focus on the development part of the game with the kids. Sometimes we get away from the development and we're looking for the best player. Focus on the development of the kid because every kid needs attention and special attention, from the best kid to the worst kid. So I just want to say thanks for bringing me out, George. This is great, man. I wish we could do this more. I love getting information and hearing from different people, meeting you, sir, and the rest of you guys, and I just hope we can do this more, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting when we talk about development, to me, it always goes back to the coach, right? What are the priorities of that coach, right? And the priorities are different. Youth sports, totally different from high school sports. High school, it's all different. From the youth level, you need to be developing every kid on that team to do something. Right? And because it's easy to find the best guy on the team,
absolutely,
or the best young lady on the team to do everything. The challenge is making sure that everyone feels a part of the program and that team. So when they walk away, they're like, yeah, well, he's not the best, but they found a place for him to play. And that's that development that they need to have at the youth level. Now you get to high school, all bets are off. Trying to win states, and trying to win championships. Things change. It's what it is. But I'm telling you, if you set the foundation and that young man feels a part of it, or young woman feels a part of it, they know. Right. Kids know who the best players on the team and who should be playing and who shouldn't. They know that. But so many times we don't give them the credit to understand it. But I think at the youth level, again, I'll say it again, it's incumbent on the coaches and the parents to make sure that everyone has has a place on the team and is able to participate. I want to give you got one? Yeah.
Coach, how do you deal with the superstar mentality from parents and kids in social media in this world today? How do you deal with it? Like, everybody's a star now. Everybody has become a star. And the idea of a role player trying to get a big guy to actually be big.
And that's you three?
How do you do it? I mean, what's the
you know, I don't have
formula you use?
I mean, everybody is so many ways, different ways you can approach it. I mean, my way might not be the best, might not work for everybody. But I think for me, like, I think you said it perfect. Like, I really do treat like all of our kids, like everybody got, you know, like they all have the same like they all have different roles, but they value just a little bit different. You know what I mean? But they all treated fairly. So I think like when we had some pretty good players in my previous years, and I think it's just not like putting them on a pedestal. Like it's like you getting treated the same way as the 15th man on the team. Like everything's like the same. You know what I'm saying? But you know they might be, you know, in the game they might be able to do a little bit different things, you know what I mean? They might be able to shoot more shots than you sometimes, you know what I mean? They might have plays called for you, you know what I'm saying? But like everybody on the team has like a role they need to kind of do, so. And then just encouraging the kids like just to be together. Like that's the big thing too, just encouraging like just stay together, work together, lean on each other, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody has a job they need to do. Like if you that 15 man on the bench, man, be the biggest fan on the bench. Like get the bench hyped up. You know what I'm saying? Like you bring energy to the team. Like you have a role. When we're in practice, challenge that top guy. Like go at him. You know what I mean? So I think it's just, you know, just trying to just treat everybody like you know, like just with that respect and that value and make them feel a part of it. Yeah.
That's going to wrap it up. I wanted to give our panelists an opportunity to, if they wanted to share something else with you, with the audience to inspire them.
Well, I just want to talk about the last point. It's about culture, right? Like, so whatever the culture is that you create either in a home or in a team, if they learn how to go get it, no one can ever take it from you. And so that's why that culture is so important.
What I would have to say closing out is keep your ears open. We got a lot of great people in this room, and I'm definitely learned a lot today, and I hope to get another experience, and I hope everybody that is not in this room gets an experience like this. And when you're out in the world, just keep your ears open, listen to people, listen to what people have to say, because it can change your life, and it is very important.
Coach?
Yeah, I would just say I'm grateful to be in this position. Appreciate you guys for inviting us out. And like myself, I'm young, man. I'm still learning. You know, I love having these type of conversations and talking with other coaches and talking with other kids and hearing. I got to sit with him and eat a little bit just to hear their perspective. So, you just got to continue to keep trying to learn every single day and understand, like, your way might not always be the right way. Just stay open, like you said. I love it. Just stay open.
I love the fact that you talked about listening,
Yeah.
because I would say we all need to be where our feet are. Okay? Be where your feet are. Be in the moment. Make sure you're listening, keeping those ears open, and also sometimes it's just about that. We just sometimes just need to listen. Right? We don't always need to be running, but again, be where your feet are. Take the opportunities that are in front of you and to impart wisdom, to speak with you, to do what you need to do, because I think we all have value, and we'd be surprised. I think most people would be really surprised at the value that they truly hold. So understand that. I'm glad everyone was able to get out tonight. This is fun. It's a great time, and we need to continue to do it.
Yes, sir.
Just to close, I just want to thank you out. Where's Terica at? Terica, this is her first, so she's the creator of our Fireside Chat. We call it the Full Court Press. It's funny because she didn't know what Full Court Press was. Like, is this like the newspaper or something? But, so that's what we're doing here, guys. We're trying to expose our AAU coaches, our high school coaches to environments like this where we can expose our kids to the information, and our parents, to the information that they need to equip them to go into high school, to equip them to go into college. So this is the first of many. I want to thank Terica for putting it together and getting you. And Pete Richard, I've been coaching for 21 years, 21 years. With an assistant coach of mine named Pete Richard, he taught me that it was bigger than basketball. My assistant coach taught me it's bigger than basketball. He said, no, we had all these slogans, go hard, we do this, we do that. And he came in with men of character, men of faith, right? And I saw everything in my life change, and I saw the things in the kids' life change, right? So it means something to have standards. It does, right? It means something to share real stories and expose kids to the way that the world really works. It can't be about you as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher. Right? If you're in that position to lead, you have to truly lead. And you have to want to see those kids in the best place possible. All right? So I'll leave you with that before I get to Jeremy.
I wanted to thank the panel again for coming out. Howard, such a humble man. He had all your success and accolades. You are extremely humble. You always have been. We were colleagues. I reached out to him. I haven't talked to Howard in a couple of years, and he agreed to come out today just on the strength. He coached my son, got him on the right path. Such a humble man. Absolutely love him. So if you have not got a chance to speak and meet with Howard, please do so. Trust me, you're going to love him. And before we go, on your tables, this right here, scan this and fill this out, because as we do more of these, and I'll be honest, I'm in the stands, you guys are out on the court. So you have to tell me what needs to be said, what topics need to be discussed, and who needs to be a moderator, who needs to be a speaker to help me create better fireside chats for you guys and for other people. So please scan it. It's about 7 questions, takes you about 3 minutes. That's it. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much.